Good evening and welcome to another Monday night edition of The People Show here with Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas on IntellectualRadio.com. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. And of course, you will be able to follow us wherever you watch your podcasts, also on iHeartRadio. Our call-in telephone number is 708-223-8953, 708-223-8953. That's 708-223-8953. We welcome your phone calls and your comments and involvement in our discussion tonight. How you doing, Charles?
Doing pretty good, Mark. Had a busy weekend and good to be back. I look forward to these Monday evenings to process a lot of what has been going on in our city, in our state, in our world. And again, it's always good to be here. This was a very busy weekend, at least from my reading of the local media.
And still getting busier.
Yeah, the vice president visited Rainbow Push, the Rainbow Push event, the annual event. They call it convention. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, it's the annual convention.
And you know, the
57th convention.
Yeah, and I think it's apropos at this time, early on in this broadcast, to recognize the service and contributions of the Reverend Jesse L. Jackson over his very long career that, for me, dates back to the 1960s, when I first became aware of this young brother who I know that I could identify with because he was perhaps the youngest member of the Reverend Dr. King's, can I call it a posse? Of his group of civil rights activists that changed this country. They changed it. It certainly changed our lives. And Jesse Jackson was, I suppose, he was the member of that group that picked up the baton. Really. In the 1970s, certainly, right here in Chicago, and his Operation Breadbasket and such, that basically continued Dr. King's legacy, at least during the 1970s. He was the highest profile member of that group after the Reverend Dr. Ralph Abernathy, certainly, was Dr. King's right-hand person, if you will, but Jesse Jackson superseded. He became the face of the movement on into the 1980s, and that's when I think he basically solidified his face as a leader of a movement, but at the same time, there was a lot of controversy. And right now, as I look back on it, extraordinary controversy when he basically became political in the 1980s. But I'll leave it there for now. But certainly, when you saw him on that stage this weekend, I only saw it from a media standpoint. I'm watching the news and such. I wasn't there. You were. But it conjured up quite a few memories of the last 50 years of a movement, and he was a focal point of it. And no matter what you say about him, he made a contribution. He is a historic figure, certainly not only for Black people in this country, but for the entire country. And we'll talk about that, but go ahead. You went to an event, right?
Well, I went to the what you would call the kickoff event Saturday. I was there Saturday at Rainbow Push when they had the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development with there. There were several people who were there to recognize his contributions and his pivoting, as he calls it, stepping down from the role of president of Rainbow Push. some people keep saying retirement, but he's not retiring. He's just stepping down for obvious reasons.
Yeah, he's sick. He's will. I mean, he's not
physically
well.
not capable,
not capable
of
doing
carrying out the duties. And he told me that a few months ago that he was going to be making that decision, and selected a formidable person to carry on that position in the Reverend Freddie Haynes out of Texas. And
I never heard of him before.
Freddie Haynes
Never heard
is
of
a
him.
formidable, one of the, top leading speakers in the country, who is a bright, brilliant, civil rights, brilliant individual who took on his father's ministry when it was at
He's a
pastor.
He's a pastor.
He's a pastor in Texas. Phenomenal teacher and speaker, valedictorian in his school. Bright, brilliant person, and an excellent choice to take the reins and continue that. And I think, in many respects, we'll be able to grow and reform that the organization of Rainbow Push. I think that he is going to be a phenomenal addition to that. And so I was excited when it was announced that he was going to be the person that Reverend Jackson had asked, and obviously he accepted, selected in that role, because we didn't know who it would be, and I didn't think of it. But Freddie Haynes is been a part of Push for many years, comes to speak every year, and just a dynamic speaker, just a dynamic person, and doing some great work out there, and has always been involved.
What has he done in Dallas?
Well, he's very involved in the social movement, and in terms of equity and housing and education. So he's going to be a tremendous voice in that, and making sure that certainly fighting for more just and fair and equitable laws as it respects to African American people there in Texas, Dallas, as well as in California, because that's where he's technically from. So I think that he is just the right person for the right time.
Really, and I look at it, and I see another preacher. I mean, I see another pastor, another man of the cloth, if you will, and I know there's been a long tradition, certainly in the run-up to the Civil Rights Act and the end of statutory segregation, where the Black church has certainly been at the vanguard all those years. And we've certainly seen it over the past 50 years, where the Reverend Jesse Jackson has had a very high-profile role. And I hear people talking all the time about the leadership of the movement being centered out of the church. Is that a good thing moving forward? Is that where we need to be as a people, having another pastor or church person leading us into the future?
Well, arguably, certainly, I would say yes. Many of the gains and many of the strives, whether it be politically or legislatively, were led out of the Black church.
Oh, without a doubt.
And so, but I think Freddie Haynes transcends that. When you learn about him, to know who he is and what how his approach and his accomplishments. I think that you'll have a tremendous appreciation for him, not just as a pastor, but as someone who is certainly intellectually capable, sound, and can and has demonstrated that kind of leadership. So I think that if I'm looking at him from a position of a pastor, I can't think of a greater choice of a pastor to lead that position as a preacher.
What do you think Rainbow Push has accomplished, let's say, over the past 20 years? What do you think they've accomplished,
Well,
that organization, on behalf of Black people? I mean, I hear so many people, and I'm going to use the phrase, on the left, talk about how Black people are losing ground and how it's so horrible out there for Black folks still. And I've even had people say it's worse now than it was 50 years ago. I've heard that. I mean, I don't believe it, but I've heard it. So what has Rainbow Push really accomplished over the past, let's say, 20 years?
Well, I think that when you talk about, individual things, I think it's just a continuation of raising of raising the consciousness and certainly awareness of the inequities that that there are those who try to persist, and he has just been a voice for lifting young Black educators. One of the biggest things that I can see where Rainbow Push has accomplished is that they have supported more than 300 a year of Black students in colleges and made sure that they got their education.
300
a year. Yeah.
a year.
Through Push Excel. I think that's a tremendous accomplishment that they have.
And it's 12. It's 40 million Black people in the United States, people who call themselves Black. 300.
Well, as an organization, as a part of that organization, I think that is something that they've been able to raise money and get people to support children through colleges, and I'm sure that there are many others that have benefited that we don't even know about. But I think that pushing education and certainly pushing for there to be social and equitable change, I think that's one of the things that Reverend Jackson has been able to work with corporations and making sure that Black folks are in position to see that other Black folks get opportunity, in whether it's in the sports world.
He's definitely done a lot of that.
Certainly, we wouldn't have as many Black head coaches in the professional arena.
Do you think that's because of Reverend Jackson?
I think he's certainly contributed to that.
I know. He is a historic figure. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I have some. I look back on it now. I mean, I was a Jesse run kind of person in the 1980s, as a lot of folks were. But at the same time, I can see where he basically made it official, if you will, that Black folks were going to be Democrats and they were going to support the Democratic Party. In fact, he went into the South in 1984 and again in 88 and organized Black folks into the Democrat Party. And he has basically, without him, as all those white Southerners became the so-called, what they call them, Reagan Republicans or whatever, they had been Democrats. And they moved to the Republican Party to support Ronald Reagan. Jesse Jackson moved in, and all those Black people who had been Republicans, many of them, Jesse Jackson organized them into this very powerful force in the Democratic Party. And if you're running for president, for instance, I don't care if your name is Barack Obama, if it's Hillary Clinton, if it's Joe Biden, you've got, when those Southern primaries begin, and most of the voters in many of those Southern primaries, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, are black voters, you've got to get those people on your side in order to win the Democratic nomination for president. And it has given black people, black voters, a position of power in the Democrat Party that they certainly never had among Democrats, and they really didn't have it, and really didn't have it among Republicans, because they couldn't vote when they had Republican leanings, because of the racist Democrats wouldn't let them vote. But I think Jesse Jackson should be remembered for that politically. I think that's the thing that he did that should be remembered historically. But to what end? I mean, has that black vote really made a difference in the long term? I mean, even the Democrats themselves are saying that it didn't, because they constantly complain about what black people are not, do not have equity in the country. But at the same time, Reverend Jackson did that. But when he committed us to Democrats, the Republicans left us alone. We belonged to the Democrats, and this whole notion of black voters being taken for granted really began after Jesse Jackson had solidified the black vote in the South. What do you mean? Jump in at any point.
Well, I don't know about him solidifying and officializing black folks to be Democrats. You don't
think that black folks are not Democrats solidly?
No, I don't think that was Jesse Jackson's single-handedly doing. I think that in terms of elections, Jesse Jackson ran an election because, and he said that I wasn't running, didn't even really want to run for president, but it was to change the way that this winner take all. And he did change that to having there being a different way of tallying votes. But officializing black folks that we had to be Democrats, I don't know.
He is a Democrat. And the Reverend Dr. King,
I don't know that he's a Democrat.
Jesse Jackson ran for president in the Democratic primary.
He ran as a Democrat.
Yeah,
there are other people who run.
He ran as a Democrat. He's a Democrat. I mean,
Harold Washington ran as a Democrat, and he wasn't a Democrat.
Harold Washington did not run as a Democrat. I mean, he ran as a Democrat. Yeah, Harold Washington was a Democrat.
No, he wasn't. He was. You call yourself an independent.
I am.
Harold Washington never claimed himself to be a Democrat.
He ran in the Democrat primary
as a Democrat
in 1983,
but he was an independent.
In 1987.
He was an independent, but he ran as a Democrat.
But he ran on the Democrat ballot. It said Harold Washington. In 1983, in the Democrat ballot in 1987, said Harold Washington. He ran as a Democrat. We don't need to debate that. Harold Washington.
It's not being debated. I'm just telling you.
Jesse Jackson ran as a
You said
Democrat.
That Jesse Jackson was a Democrat.
At that point, he is a Democrat. He absolutely is a Democrat. He ran for president.
You know that he's registered as a Democrat?
He's a Democrat. Sometimes you do things that means that you are. Okay. If you do it, you are.
So you're a Republican then?
I'm not a Republican. I've never run for anything as a Republican.
But you voted as a Republican.
I've never voted as a Republican.
You voted for Republicans.
When?
You just
when?
Wait a minute.
Are you telling me
you didn't vote for? Yeah. No, you told us who you voted for. You voted for Darren Bailey. You supported him.
Yeah, I supported. I supported him. but I didn't run as a Republican.
No, you didn't run
I
for anything.
conceivably could vote for a Democrat for president in 2024.
Yeah,
I
okay.
like this guy Kennedy.
All
I
right.
think he
Oh,
says
my
some
God.
things that
You
are very
gotta be kidding
interesting.
me.
So I'm an independent.
You gotta
I
be
could
kidding
vote
me.
for a Democrat or a
Yeah.
Republican, but if you sign up and run for office in a primary,
So
and
you
you're
like
in the party,
you're gonna
you are
you're
a
gonna
Democrat.
support
Now Brandon
Kennedy?
Johnson, I don't know what he is because he
Yeah.
hasn't run. He's never. He ran as a Democrat for county commissioner. Yeah, he's a Democrat. Yeah, he signed up.
Okay.
And I've never run for anything. Man.
I'm not talking about what you ran as.
Yeah, but that's
That's
what
a-
you are. If you run as you are a
no,
Democrat.
No, it doesn't
Brandon
mean that.
Johnson,
It doesn't
Democratic
mean that you're a
candidate for
Democrat.
Cook County Commissioner.
There are independents
Now he didn't run as a Democrat for mayor because it's a nonpartisan election. Okay, I'll buy that. But if you are
We're not
if you
talking
run
about.
for
We're
office
not talking about
on
we're
the
not
party
talking about that.
banner,
You,
Jesse
you
Jackson.
said that Jesse was a
Jesse
Democrat.
is a Democrat.
How do you know that?
Because he ran for president twice.
But that
as a
doesn't mean
Democrat.
he's
Does
a
he-
Democrat.
Is he saying he has? Is he saying now that he's not?
He's never said that he was.
He did say he was
When?
when he ran for president.
No,
he ran for president on the Democrat ticket.
That doesn't mean that he
Come
said he was
on,
a
and
Democrat.
He won primaries as a Democrat.
That
He was
doesn't-
at the Democrat
He
convention.
ran as, of
giving
course, he
speeches
ran as a Democrat.
because he was a Democrat. He's a Democrat.
Oh.
And I think what happened at that point, the question of whether or not black folks were going to be Republicans or Democrat virtually ended. Jesse Jackson
Well, of course,
made it possible.
There was nothing
And
on
look,
the Republican
I
side
think
for black folks.
There was prior to the 1980s when Jesse Jackson ran as a Democrat. He sort of said, "Hey, black folks, we are Democrats," and I think since then we have voted Democrat 85, 90, 95% in elections all over the country.
The Democratic,
We didn't do that
the
prior
Democratic
to
Party. The Democratic
Reagan.
Party was the party that is closer to a party that black folks could work with and certainly could receive.
And
some
Jesse
benefits
articulated
for it. Right.
that.
So-
Jesse articulated that. And the thing is,
And many other
has
people
it
have
really
articulated
made
that.
we've got a lot more black elected officials, certainly, since Jesse Jackson ran for president in the 1980s. We have, especially here in Illinois,
And we've got
but the
a lot
question
more.
is,
We've got a
what
lot more
difference
done.
has it made?
Well, obviously, it's made more of a difference than we have sustained or obtained, because we can't even talk about what accomplishments under the Republicans, because the Republicans have never put forth anything.
Well, they put forth
they've
stuff
never
in the
put forth-
50s, man. And
Yeah,
they
but-
put forth stuff.
but-
I mean,
and-
we
and
talked
guess
last
what?
week
And-
about
and-
affirmative action, man. Affirmative action was basically put in effect by the Nixon administration.
Yeah,
Not
and
that I'm a
so-
big
and-
fan of Richard Nixon,
and
but
what do they
that's
do?
when affirmative action
And
was
Republicans
mostly put
took it
into
back,
effect.
and that's what Republicans do. Republicans do, and history
I
has
just
shown
see you,
that.
you're a Democrat. You know,
I am a
yeah.
registered Democrat,
Yeah, you're
and I don't
registered
run away
Democrat.
from that.
See, I'm
a
not
registered
In
Democrat.
fact, I don't vote in
So,
primaries because I never did. So you
Yeah.
can't even nail me on voting in a primary for one party or another, because as a reporter, I never voted.
Well,
in a
nobody's trying to
primary.
nail you.
Well, I mean,
anything.
but you
I
called
don't
me
know,
a
but-
Republican, and I'm saying I don't even register as.
If you can call
anything.
somebody else something, then
But
this is the way you vote.
Look, he ran
This is
for
the way you vote.
office under
You
that
voted.
party's
You
banner.
voted for
That means
Republicans.
he's a
You
Democrat.
voted for Republicans.
Yeah.
You talk
I
about.
voted for
you're
I voted for
supporting.
Republicans.
Okay, so you're a Republican.
No, if
Yeah,
you vote
you're
for
a Republican.
Well, what's going to happen if I vote for Kennedy? If I sign up and vote for Kennedy for president?
Kennedy is.
Well,
Kennedy
no, what
is
if I
not
do?
a Democrat.
Does that make me a Democrat?
He's not a Democrat.
How do you know?
and
Man,
he's being put.
wait a minute,
He's being
Mark,
put
Mark,
up by
Mark,
Republicans.
you're saying that
He's being
you're
put up by
You're saying
Republicans.
RFK.
RFK, just
Robert
because his
F.
name,
Kennedy
yes,
Jr. is not a Democrat. Are you saying that?
absolutely
He's
saying
a
that.
Kennedy.
So
He's
what?
a Kennedy.
So
Mark.
what? That doesn't make him
Mark
a
and
Democrat.
John,
This is a
Rob,
guy
Bobby,
who
Teddy,
supported. who's
Joe
supported
Kennedy,
by
they're
who was supported by 77
Mark,
Republicans.
Mark, I got to take you seriously, my brother.
Well,
but you're saying that a Kennedy is not a Democrat? Are you saying that to me?
I'm saying this Kennedy is not a Democrat. This Kennedy, this lunatic that you're going to vote for, you're going to support this lunatic.
No, I like some of his ideas.
I
like some of his ideas.
What ideas?
I like the
What
idea.
ideas?
I like the idea that he's not with this war in Ukraine. I'm not.
Yeah.
I would support.
Do you
that
support
to me
the
is that
same
you're
guy
the
who
top of my
said
issues.
that the last week who said that COVID-19
Oh, I
was
agree
socially
with him on that
engineered
COVID piece.
for Jews?
Yes, I agree.
And for
well,
China.
I don't know about the Jews and all that, but I know that he
just said yes.
He has questions about the
No, the man
about
said
these vaccines.
He
that
said
they
last
give.
week that
and I'm
COVID-19
definitely down with
was
that. I have a lot of
socially
questions
that
as
Jews
well about
and-
those vaccines.
and
Well, I don't know about
and
Jews,
Chinese
man.
didn't get it.
Nah,
Well, this
man.
is what he said.
I don't know, man. I mean,
This
I
is
haven't
what he
heard
said
all
from
that.
his own mouth.
I haven't heard all that.
This is the person you
I
want to
haven't heard
support.
all that, but I definitely am interested in what he says. I'm interested in his,
Okay.
particularly about the war. What he says about vaccines, I'm very interested in that.
Yeah.
And hey, I want to hear what the guy says. I want to hear him out. I am absolutely positively
You're a QAnon
will not
supporter.
will not
Yeah.
support Joe Biden. There's that's out of the question.
Hey,
This man is completely out to lunch. He's got some serious cognitive
he's so out to
problems.
lunch that he's got
And-
more done. We have the lowest inflation rate. Inflation
Lowest
is at
inflation
3%.
rate. Really?
Yeah,
He's
since
got-
before the 19.
He's got the lowest inflation rate.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it's come down from 9%
to 3%.
Well, yeah,
Right,
but
to
I mean,
3%.
Trump's was lower than that.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it was.
No, it was not.
Oh, come on.
No, it was not. It was
We gotta
not.
deal with facts.
No, we are
Trump's
dealing with
inflation
facts.
rate
No,
was
Trump's-
lower than what
Trump's
we have now.
Trump's GDP.
Man,
No, it
I
was
don't know about
not.
GDP and all that.
Yeah,
but I
no, it
know
was
that I
not.
had more money in my pocket when Trump was president.
Oh, no,
now
you
I've
didn't.
told you
No,
about
you didn't.
Trump and me.
No, you didn't.
No,
you
yeah, I didn't.
Let me tell you
You
something.
gonna tell me how much
Yeah,
money I got in my
something.
pocket?
Let me tell you something.
Oh man,
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
The fact that Joe Biden's administration has been able to get inflation down,
Inflation down,
unemployment
down.
We didn't have this recession that they said that we were going to have, that you all were looking for and hoping that would
I wasn't
happen.
looking for no
Oh,
recession.
sure you
man.
are. Of course you
no
are.
way
Come
am I looking for a
Because
recession, man.
You
I
have
mean,
this
it's too much
visceral
at stake.
disdain and this visceral hate for Joe
I
Biden,
have
but
the-
you don't want
know-
to recognize and acknowledge the accomplishment
Oh,
that has
Joe?
happened under this
Old
man's
Joe,
administration.
man. Yeah, old Joe.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I think, but I'll go back to what I
Absolutely.
said. I'm really have a lot of questions about this war and his relationship with the military-industrial complex, and why are we spending billions and billions
Yeah,
and hundreds of billions
Yeah.
of dollars in a place called Ukraine when it is 10,000 miles away, and I don't understand what is the point.
Well,
the only people, let me finish,
you have to
Mark.
learn it.
The only people getting rich from it are those who sell weapons, and people in Ukraine and Russia are dying.
I think that
Are
you should spend
dying
a
by
little
the
bit more
hundreds
time.
of thousands, and I don't understand why my tax dollars should be used to buy weapons.
Well, maybe.
I mean,
maybe
and
you should-
I don't
maybe-
get it.
Maybe
He hasn't
maybe
fully
you should-
explained that to
Maybe
me.
you should. Maybe you should. Did you ask for Ronald Reagan? Did you ask for George W. Bush
Mhm.
or any of the others that sent us into war?
Yes. Yes,
Why
I
we
mean,
did
I
that?
feel
Yeah.
thoroughly duped.
Yeah.
In fact, I
So-
wasn't duped because I was never really for this war against Iraq, because I knew that the Iraqis didn't do 9/11, and they sold that. They're no better. The Bush administration, they're no better than the Biden administration. They lied. They got us involved in a war that we didn't need to be involved
we
in.
don't have
I
soldiers. We don't
get
have
it.
soldiers.
I mean, the one
dying.
thing I can say is that
don't
when
have
Trump
soldiers
was
dying.
president, we didn't
We don't
have
have
any
soldiers
new
dying.
wars when Trump was president. But as soon as Biden got in there,
Yeah,
man, he revved it up.
We're-
They're spending all this money, and the people at Raytheon and General Dynamics and all of these different defense contractors are making all of this.
Well, we don't
money
have
now.
any soldiers.
they're certainly
there.
having
and
no recession.
I certainly learn about the importance of not allowing for Vladimir Putin, who wants to break up the alliance so that he can become the world's dictator. I
Really?
think
That's what you think is happening?
That's important.
Yeah, see, I don't know that that's happening. And
well,
I'm
then
not-
I think what
I
you
don't know
should
that
do,
that's
Charles,
happening.
is I think first of all you should back up and be a little bit more neutral and
I am
go
neutral.
and
I'm
get-
very neutral. I don't
Well,
want.
I think you should
see
go and
people
get the
dying.
information. I think you should go get the
Oh,
information
man,
because
I
think
get the right
I think
information.
That,
I
no, I don't
no,
think
I don't
that-
believe. I look at a little MSNBC, but not a lot. It's kind of nauseous.
Well, I think you should watch them.
But
I
I'm
think you
telling
should
you
watch
that
them all. I mean, and
I do.
MSNBC
I watch as many of them as I can,
is
but I
light
know that
years
they're
ahead
trying
of
to-
Fox
they're
so-called
trying to-
news that
yeah.
you spend a lot
They're
of time
trying to
watching.
fuel. They're trying to fuel this war, and they're losing. That's the thing.
No, they're
about
not
it.
losing.
They're losing.
I
it.
mean, I'm not sure.
they're
what,
losing. They haven't driven.
I'm not sure
they
what
haven't
world
driven
you
the
live in,
Russians out.
Charles. I'm
They
not
haven't,
sure what world
they haven't
that
driven
you
the
live in.
Russians out, man, and
They're driving
seems
them
like
out.
they're driving them out.
They're driving them
All right,
out. That's
man.
for sure.
All right.
They're
Well,
driving them
if you
out.
got it, I hope they end it. I hope they can end it
Well,
sooner
they're going.
than later,
They're,
and that nobody
they're going to end it.
launches anything nuclear.
Well, Putin can end it in 15 minutes.
Okay,
Get out
if
of
you
those
think
people's
that can
country.
happen,
Get out
let
of
him
those
do
people's
it.
country and go back to Russia and stop trying to become the world's dictator.
But man,
he can end,
he
could end it in 15 minutes. He started it. He should end
and
it.
the others who are into war. I was never
I'm not into war.
man.
I'm not into war.
it, man. I think you
I'm
got
not
to
into war.
negotiate a peace. You got to have a ceasefire. You got to stop killing each other. That's got to happen.
Well,
And they aren't.
he should never have invaded. He should never invaded
on
those
the part
people's
of NATO.
country.
Well,
He
we'll
should
see,
never
man.
invaded those people's country, thinking
we'll
that
see
he
what
was
happens.
going to
We'll
just
see what happens.
that they were going to
I'm
just
not-
roll over.
I'm not with it.
All right.
I'm not with it,
And-
man.
and-
So you can
and-
continue.
yeah.
They're running, and then Joe Sleepy said they were running out of weapons, and now they're going to use these cluster bombs that are known to kill children, and they're going to. He announces the president of the United States. I mean, I understand he's not all there. That he's
come on.
he's got some cognitive
Charles.
issues, but
Yeah.
man, you don't go there and say that.
If
I mean, go ahead and use it if you're gonna use it, but man,
if he's got these
you're gonna-
cognitive issues and here
You don't think he has
you all
cognitive
say
issues?
that he's masterminding on one way to be,
I don't say he's
to
masterminding.
be
I say he's complete, total
corrupt.
loss, man.
No, he's
I
not.
think he's lost, man. I
Listen,
don't see
anybody
it at
who
all,
has
man.
gotten
I don't
things
see it
complete,
at all. I don't know. I don't think I would want anybody in this country to die on that Ukrainian hill.
What
I
person
don't
in this
think-
country? How
Why
many
should
soldiers?
Americans-
How many Americans are in fighting in Ukraine?
I don't know. There are some, I'm
We have-
sure,
no,
because
those
they have
people.
to operate
Those
those
people who have
machines.
decided that
They
go
have
over
to
there.
operate those
It has
weapons.
nothing to do with
but-
the military. No,
Well, I
there
don't
are
know,
no
man. I mean-
military forces, no
Well-
military soldiers fighting in Ukraine.
Well, that's what you say.
No,
I
that's
don't
what
know.
it is.
I don't
That's
know
what
that.
it is.
You know that for a fact.
Yes,
You know that.
that's what it is. That's what it is.
Mark, you
'Cause
really
you
believe
choose-
that?
Yeah,
You really
because-
believe that? You believe everything the government tells you? Do you believe
Listen,
that?
we don't have
That
any
there's
soldiers.
no
We have-
Americans,
We have
even
no American
advisors,
soldiers. We have no American
advisors,
soldiers
Nobody-
fighting
you-
in
so we
Ukraine.
just send them weapons and they do what they want to with them.
We have no
Really?
soldiers fighting in
Okay,
Ukraine.
Mark. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Mark.
All right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let's
Okay.
let's keep it consistent.
No U.S. soldiers fighting in Ukraine.
They are not.
No U.S. advisors.
They are not. They
Nobody
are not.
operating those weapons. Nobody.
We don't have
operating
any.
the
There are
satellites
there are
that
no.
show the
There are no.
Ukrainians where the Russians.
We have
are.
our
Come on, man.
own. We have our
Ukrainians don't have no
own
satellites,
intel.
man.
We have our own
Yeah,
intel. Charles, you're being
exactly.
now you're being
No, I'm just telling
intellectually.
you, man.
You're trying to be intellectually manipulative.
I'm
okay.
basically
So-
being logical.
No, you're not.
How are you going to
You're
send
not being
weapons?
logical
How are you gonna send
whatsoever.
weapons
You're
that
not
they
being
don't know how to
logical
operate
whatsoever.
unless you have people there at least teaching them how to
We-
use them.
The president of the United States cannot send military forces without there being an approval from Congress to do so.
Really, like they did in Vietnam,
Yeah.
huh?
So
Like they did in
so
Vietnam. I don't
that's
think
not
Congress
happening.
ever authorized a war in Vietnam. I don't think Congress really ever authorized a war in Afghanistan.
They didn't.
Come on, man. They just sent.
They
The
didn't.
president has tremendous power.
But we don't have any soldiers. We're not bringing
send
body
us.
bags back from Ukraine because we don't have soldiers there. And
No,
I
you
think
don't know that, man.
I
We
think
don't
that
know. We don't
I
know.
am glad
I don't trust
that we are not sending
trust
soldiers there, and that we are supporting them.
I don't trust
by
them.
giving them resources so that they can
Good,
defend their
You
country.
know, that's what you think, man.
And
I
not have
I didn't.
them going into to other places where we would end up being required to, based on international law, we would be required to send soldiers. So
Mhm.
I don't want that to happen. And so if this is the way that we have to be supportive, not to send our military people over there to die in a war that we didn't start.
We got nothing to do with.
So
Nothing to do with.
yeah,
This
so
isn't
I'm-
1942, man, and
Yeah.
and you know, this is a new age, man. We got other issues here in the United States we need to deal with, if
and
we
we're
got
dealing
hundreds
we're
of
dealing
billions
we're
of
dealing
dollars,
we're dealing with those
to
issues.
spend, we should be spending them on things in this country to support people who live here.
Well, guess
and
what?
who are
We are
American
spending billions of dollars, and that's the other side. I'm glad you transitioned there, because there are billions of dollars that are being spent in this country and spent in our states and spent
doing what?
that are supposed to be
Mhm.
going to help our people here.
I'm helping
And
you with the
that is the
transition.
thing.
What are
That
some of
is the-
those? What are some of those things? In other words, where you're
The federal government, what
Mhm.
the federal government does is send money to the states so that the states will be able to invest, and hopefully invest them in the right place to help people who need the help. That is what our responsibility and job is to make sure that our political representatives are doing just that. Now,
so
there
we
are
should be we're
here-
getting billions right now.
$18 billion
uh,
just here.
in
right?
Chicago,
The 10
in Illinois.
Look, the 10 most dependent states, are getting far more billions of dollars than, and those happen to all be red states that are getting those dollars. But in particular, talking about what we are getting here, the $18 billion that are coming out of those bills for housing,
Mhm.
for healthcare, for jobs, for infrastructure. We need to be focused on making sure that those dollars equitably don't pass by our communities, as they always have done.
Why is that?
Historically, because we have not made sure and hold those persons to account to make sure
our
that
politicians
they,
have not.
equitably. Yes,
Our politicians,
absolutely.
our electeds.
All of them.
What's wrong with them?
All of them.
What's wrong with them?
We allow for them to do it.
We do,
Yeah.
but we elect
Yeah.
them.
There's something more. There's something
Why do we
more
elect them?
wrong with us
Why do we
that we
keep electing them?
continue to allow for them to do it.
Why do we keep electing them? Because most of them have been around for a while.
Largely because we won't organize ourselves to have the greater strength to elect new people. That's why.
New Democrats.
Yeah, because the Republicans is not the answer. I know that's where you want to go.
Of course.
Yeah, I know
Every
that's where
time,
you want
that's
to go.
my game.
But
man.
you don't.
I mean,
yeah, but the Republicans don't have an
that's what I
answer.
shoot.
All you can say is Republican. Give me
No,
a
I'm not saying
platform.
Republican. I'm just saying
Give me a
the
platform.
crowd that we have in there right now.
Okay, well,
man, are
get a
like-
new crowd.
Well,
Get a new
I'm
crowd.
Talking about that, I've talked.
Yeah,
about
but
that.
talking
Get a new
about it
crowd,
is
man.
is different between organizing and doing it.
Mhm.
That's our problem, is that we won't organize to do it. We do a lot of talking, whole lot of talking.
So what about the 18 billion? I mean, what? And you say that they're providing the 18 billion. What can I know that we have a new mayor in the city, and he wants to make some major investments. He's talked about $800 million, $800 million to rebuild the mental health system, which absolutely needs to be done, to create some substantive foundational programs for young people, certainly.
I don't think he has to. I don't think
Actually,
we could get that $800 million should come out of the infrastructure bill.
what
The
infrastructure
18
bill?
the $18 billion.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
why isn't
Well,
we got
you know,
Democrat
we
in the
could we
White
could
House,
we can we
got
can we can
Democrat,
we can
got
get
the
$1 billion
infrastructure bills passed.
for that. If you need $1 billion for mental health, it's certainly
So
needed.
why? So
Okay.
why?
Let's get the General Assembly to put that in the budget that we get $1 billion
Mhm.
for mental health.
How's the governor down
you
with
know,
this? He down with
so
that?
Who cares if the governor is down with
The
it?
governor's got to
if
sign the bill, man. If the legislature passes
if
it.
if the legislature passes it, and if the people are pushing for it, then the governor has to get in line and do what the people want to
the
do.
governor has already said that he will not support a financial transaction.
Who cares
tax.
what the governor says
So
that
you're
he won't
saying we
support?
should just-
If the people
that the
say
people-
that they want it, and if we,
You think people
if-
want that?
absolutely,
And then financial transaction
absolutely,
tax?
absolutely.
So if the governor then
there are more people
needs
who
to
are in
sign-
support of that.
Okay, so that would mean that in the city, because the financial transaction tax would benefit the city, not Springfield or Peoria
Yes, it
or
would.
Decatur. How would
Part
how would that-
because part of those taxes do go to the state. Yeah, they absolutely do.
the financial transactions
Yes.
tax would be
the
the state would get a piece of the
Yes.
money that
Yes.
the brokerage houses
of
and
course,
whomever would
of
pay.
course. It's not
So-
100% that goes to the city.
So you think that this governor then should basically shut up and not jawbone against the bill as he has, or against the effort as he has coming out the box. I mean, he said early on that he would not support a financial transaction.
and I think the governor is
tax.
wrong.
Okay.
I think the governor is wrong on that.
Mhm.
He is absolutely wrong on that.
He says the
they-
companies will leave if something like that
they're
happens.
not leaving. They have within their own organization their own financial transaction tax to support that they all pay into to support their
There's a tax?
part of it. Yes,
I mean, they might make contributions, but I don't
No,
think it's a tax.
it is
It's a tax on who? Wait, stop.
on
You
all.
got to help
on-
me out. See, you
there are-
obviously know
we
more
have
about this.
we have
this-
four.
this
I think
than
we
do.
have 4 indices in Illinois or in Chicago, and within that they have whatever the leadership is. Right, they all contribute to, almost like a union. They contribute a
It's
financial
like
transaction,
an association,
like an association.
of
Okay,
brokerage or
With-
financial people.
within
And they make contributions to
within that
group,
body.
which represents them or lobbies for them or does things.
I don't
on
know if
their
I would call
behalf.
it. Well, let's just take it as that they globally do things on their
Mhm.
behalf. But my point is that they have one within. They have one within. There absolutely should be that they should pay their fair share of a financial transaction tax on some of the trades that they do.
Okay,
That will create
Mhm.
hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay,
All right.
but it doesn't seem.
And it's not going to change. It's not going to change their lives.
But that's that's cool. But the governor again says he's not
He's
going
wrong.
to do it. Okay, he could wrong, but there's also a conversation about a city income tax on higher earners, and what the number I've heard is $100,000.
No, that number was a number that was proposed by the United Working Families. That
Mhm.
was a wish list.
Okay,
If you can pull it up.
so you think
You can
that,
pull it up and read it.
So where
no.
should the number be? Do you think?
Brandon, where should it be?
I mean, if it's not 100,000, where should it be higher?
First of all, I need to know more about it, because what is being thrown out there and what has been said, even the person, Fran Spielman, is that her name from the Sun-Times, who
She's
had
a
to
reporter,
retract what she said, that
That
was
was during the
Brandon's proposal.
campaign.
Yeah, but they were saying that this was Brandon's proposal, which it was not.
Fine,
Okay.
but it's
So-
somebody. But it's a proposal.
It's a proposal by a group.
Okay, fine.
All right.
But it's a proposal.
by a group, but
a
not by
city
Brandon.
income tax that would be levied not only on people who live in the city of Chicago, but those who work in the city of Chicago. You down with that?
What I'm down, what I agreed to was the head tax, which had been to place for 40 years, until Rahm Emanuel decided to play to the corporations and end it for the corporations and put it on working class and poor people. That's what he did at the exact same time.
Something going on up there?
Yeah, there's something crazy going on on up there. And
We're talking about our little video situation.
I mean, we have a new camera here.
You're not seeing us.
Yeah.
If you're trying to listen to the People Show on YouTube or whatever, you or online, you probably are seeing something very strange going on. If you can hear us on Intellectual Radio, you can join this conversation. Our number is 708-223-8953. Again, the number is 708-223-8953. I'm Charles Thomas, along with Mark Wallace, and we are talking about, man, we've been going all over the world, man. We went to Europe, back to Chicago, which is fine. And that's what we do here.
It's all important.
That's how we do. And but I think that we're going to get some serious information about how the mayor wants to do this. That is, raise the additional revenue that he's going to need to affect many of his programs, really. That he wants to change the city of Chicago, and he's going to have to. I think he's going to do it certainly no later than September, because if you're going to increase any tax, it's sort of a political rule of thumb that you do it during the first year that you're in office. You don't wait until the third year. Of course, that's too close to your reelection campaign. So I believe that he's going to do it. And do it within weeks. The other big job that he has right now is deciding on a police superintendent, and they have the 3 finalists now.
We have 3 finalists, and I believe there was some controversy about one that was not included in the 3 finalists by this letter that came from the alderman, but they have a process in place. And, on one hand, the aldermen they get to approve or not approve who the commission recommended, right? Mm-hmm. So there's 3 people that the commission recommended.
But two of the 3 are from or within the department.
2.
And one's from Madison, Wisconsin. His name is Sean something or the other.
Okay. Yeah. So, I think there were 50 some odd candidates initially,
quite a few,
or something like that. And then, and Joshua Gray, who was actually the chairman of that group, I know, very well, of the commission. So now it's going to be the mayor's decision on whether or not he is going to accept one of the 3. But I would say if you put this commission together and this commission did its work and sent you 3 candidates, I wouldn't see why he wouldn't be able to select one of those. They just did in Top Cop in New York. Mm-hmm. The mayor out there in New York just chose, I think, for the first time, a Latino to be the top cop out there. In New York. And so Eric Adams, who I met when I was down in New Orleans, real nice brother. So we'll wait and see. I don't know none of the names are familiar to me of the 3 finalists.
Man, I tell you, I'm for some
So,
reason I'm not able to get my magic
uh,
phone to.
let's
to
see here.
work.
3 finalists for superintendent. Yeah.
I don't know any of these guys either, but
Yeah, none of the names.
you know, I've been out the game for a minute. So, man, what's going on? I can't get my phone.
Yeah, let's see here. Here are the 3 okay. So you have Sean F. Barnes, Madison, Wisconsin, Chief of Police. Angel Navales, CPD, Chief of Constitutional Policing and Reform. Larry Snelling, CPD, Chief of Counterterrorism. So these were the 3 finalists out of the 54 that applied for the job.
It'll be an interesting choice if he chooses from among these 3. You know, Rahm was given the same 3 well, not the same 3, but he was given 3 choices. He said, "I don't want any of them. I want Eddie Johnson."
Well,
and
Ron, he absolutely thwarted the process before he even got to 3. Eddie Johnson, let me tell you how that happened.
Okay.
None of us knew who Eddie Johnson was. For all intents, we didn't really know who he was. And before the selection or the group were supposed to be submitted to Rahm, he started sending Eddie Johnson around on all of the morning news circuits. He started, you saw him on Channel 7, Channel 5, Channel 2 for about a month. You saw this guy coming out, and you know, I certainly was asking, who is this guy? You know, and when it came down to it, you're right. He didn't even. I don't even think he even reviewed any of the others, because even the aldermen were upset. Right? The aldermen were upset because he put that commission in place, and he decided that Eddie Johnson was his guy. He decided that before they had even provided him with whoever their, you know, collections was. So he completely thwarted that whole process.
That's Chicago way.
You know,
I mean,
so,
you know, Rahm himself. I mean, the way he came onto the scene was an inside job. So,
well, yes, of course it was. Of course it was. He went on PBS, and he was doing an interview with Charlie Rhodes, and Charlie Rhodes asked him, "What would your next question?" Right, and he said, "Well, you know, I'd like to be the mayor of Chicago." And of course, Barack Obama endorsed Rahm Emanuel, and but the field of people that he was running against. Was such a weak field.
Really? You think so? In retrospect?
I mean, he was
running against Gary Chico, right? That was the first time around.
He was running against Gary Chico. He's running against what's her name? The senator, what was her name? The first black senator,
Carol Moseley
Braun.
Patricia Van Pelt.
Patricia Van Pelt, and not Bobby Rush. It wasn't Bobby Rush, was it? Danny Davis.
No, I don't think Danny Davis.
He pulled out.
Yeah.
So, and I forget get the other, but it was not a very
inside job.
Yeah. So, but at any rate, yes. And he became, kind of a dictator, if you will. And
well, that's what Chicago does. I mean, remember Daley was mayor for 22 years.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so we'll see out of these 3. I had hoped that the guy from, I think the 6th district and the 3rd district, I was hoping that one of those 2 would be at least one of the finalists, but they didn't make it. So neither one of them made it in. But we'll see We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens out of that situation. The other thing that was announced today that the Cook County State's Attorney put out this no contact list. Did you hear about that?
No.
Okay, so let me pull this up. So today it is called the Brady Giglio Act or policy. And what this policy is, these are individuals that have questionable reputations for violating people's due process, or that will have less than credible information. So they can, public officials, these are police officers that cannot be called to testify in cases. And I think there's 174 on this list.
Really? Right, because they have no credibility. They've lied before or something like that? Or?
Oh, they participated. Yes, they've lied before. They participated in, falsely setting people up. And
so why are they on the department? That's a question to me. Why haven't they been?
Well, these are also past people as well. But that would be, I personally think that people who are caught violating their oath of office should not be in public service. They should not be on the
Absolutely
department,
not.
right?
No, they shouldn't.
If you're doing that sort of thing. So so the Cook County State's Attorneys, it's called the Brady Giglio. And so the Brady Giglio policy takes its name from two landmark United States Supreme Court cases, Brady versus Maryland and United States versus Giglio. The Supreme Court ruling in those cases established a prosecutor's constitutional obligation to disclose impeachment information to the defense. So it was exculpatory information that would benefit the defendant. And in many cases here in Chicago, as we know, that police officers, they have withheld information and evidence that might have benefited the defendant in order for them to obtain guilty verdict. So what she put out is a do not call list, which will serve as a policy. And it's in a database that will list the names of law enforcement officers that will not be called as witnesses in cases, and that would violate one's due process. Now, if a police officer is on a do not call list, they should not be a police officer.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they've disqualified themselves.
Yeah. I mean,
like
you basically have committed a crime.
Well, yeah, but it's certainly an offense that should disqualify you from having the police power.
Wouldn't it equate to, violating a person's due process in a criminal matter, withholding evidence, or falsely, that's a crime.
If it's been proven, certainly not. You can't. You certainly can't keep a person like that on the police force. But that means that 174. So what do these officers do? Do they just shuffle paper all day? Because if they go out in the street and they arrest somebody, you got to think that they could end up being a material witness in a criminal case. And she's saying that they can't testify, that they should not be allowed to testify because they have no credibility. That's my understanding of what you just said.
Yes. And, they've got these names and they're making the names public, 174 names. John Adriani got their star number. I guess the decision date. I guess that's the date that 9/17. His is 9/17/215. Daryl Atkins, star number 17487. 11/20/2017. I'm not sure what this decision date means. I'm not sure what that means. The list is subject to change, but it's 174 names. that they have on this list.
Mhm.
So, of course, I think Jason Van Dyke is on here, but in the news story today, they showed this Ronald Watts guy who
Sure.
was the black police officer that had set up more than, well, 200 convictions. That
he denies it. I mean, he says he didn't do it. Whatever,
Okay,
but-
well, he served time,
Mhm.
for it. He was convicted for it. So, and there were more than 200 people that this state's attorney is processing now, having to deal with those cases. Right. So, and the other problem with that is that some of these people could very well be people that may have contributed or may have done something, right? Or may have done the alleged offense. But when you have a police officer who goes out and betrays their oath of office and the process to ensure that these people are convicted, man, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. John Burge, who had got many people tortured.
So is there any explanation as to why these people are still working as police officers? Is it a union situation where you can't fire them? You can't arbitrarily fire them if, in fact, they have enough information that would suggest that they have no credibility to be witnesses. Then why are they still working? Is that a matter of the FOP fighting any suspension or firing or disciplinary action?
That's a very good question. It's a very good question that we need to ask. We need to ask that question. We need to ask that question to the city council. We need to ask that question to the mayor. We need to ask that question to the General Assembly. Something needs to happen and the reason why I'm not even suggesting the union, because the union should not be dictating policy. Unions have a place. I am for unions. I've never had a union job in my life, but I think that unions have a place to negotiate on behalf of workers to make sure that workers are getting a fair wage and good working conditions and so forth. But unions should not be dictating who works and who does not work, who gets a job and who does not get a
You
job,
sound like
or
me,
what
man.
the policies are. Okay, so now I just want to
Sound
make
like some kind of
I wanted to clarify,
conservative.
But that's not conservative. That's
That is
just
a conservative
practical
position, man.
That's just practical.
That's a position that would run counter to what the CTU has openly and publicly professed it wants to do. It wants to get involved in public policy, and it is involved in public policy.
That is
now.
okay. Everybody should be allowed to be involved in public policy.
As a union,
everybody
even to run
should
it?
be. I just said to you that unions should not be dictators. They should not be dictators. Unions have a place. They should not be dictators.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course
Right?
not.
They shouldn't have that role.
But
Now,
some of
the
them
biggest
are.
dictator is the Chicago Police Department Union. That is the biggest dictator in Chicago. You keep talking about the Chicago Teachers Union. The Chicago Teachers Unions don't have any murders under their union that they're protecting. And the Chicago Police Union, first of all, police officers shouldn't have unions in the first place.
You don't think so?
No, they should not be unionized. Does the military have unions?
Of course not.
Okay. All right. Police officers should not have unions. That's just my opinion. So
Firefighters, what about them?
I put it this way. They should have somebody that can represent to make sure that they have decent wage. No, they don't need to have unions either. They don't need to have a union either. Firefighters, police officers, they don't need to have unions. They don't need to have unions.
Well, I mean, I think every worker should have a union, but there should be limits on what can be included in collective bargaining.
I just gave you that.
But every worker should be able
To be represented.
by
Okay.
a union, but there should be limits. And I think that is the question, particularly as it applies to CTU. They've been going back and forth on that for, many, many years on what can be negotiated and what cannot be, from class sizes to workday, the length of the workday, which is, the number of hours a
I
kid
don't know.
spends
What's
in
wrong with that?
class. Pardon?
What's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, but it's also, but what if they say, well, we don't want to work past 2:30 every day? Well, wait a minute. That means the kids don't get a full day of school, and like that happened with ROM. ROM and the teachers union CTU went back and forth, had a bloody battle over the length of a school day.
Yeah, but Ron wanted the
And-
school day to go to 6 o'clock.
Well, I don't know how long.
Well, that's what he
it to go,
wanted.
but the fact of the matter is, they had to go to the state for the state to remove certain elements of the negotiation, or certain issues could not be negotiated as part of the contract, and or could be.
Yeah.
And
Part of that was to have a longer school day, but the compensation, you were not being compensated for. I think there's 2 or 3 hours or something like that. There was a compensation discrepancy there. But I don't think that there's anything wrong with negotiating there. I just don't think that unions should have the power to determine who gets in the club and who doesn't get in the club.
public policy,
All right.
Basically. I mean,
So,
you don't think they should be involved in public policy?
No,
That should be
not
left
as a
up
union.
to the that should be
No,
left
not as
up
a
to
union,
the
as a citizen,
administration
fine.
and the elected officials. They
Yeah.
should be able to decide public
Well,
policy.
public policy is
And-
you
and-
negotiate on behalf of.
but
of-
the unions go
yeah.
for as much as they can get. They go, well, and why not? I mean, that's what they do. But we don't necessarily always have the elected officials who are beholden to unions.
Well, that's
some of the
fine.
unions,
I think that's
and
fine.
they capitulate and they go ahead and let the union have what it wants because they're taking campaign contributions from the unions. You know that in Texas, public employee unions are not allowed to donate to political campaigns of local politicians. In Illinois, it's just the opposite. The CTU can make contributions to, for instance, Brandon Johnson or any other elected official who runs.
If
but
you did that
they-
universally, I would be okay
I
with
mean,
that.
In Chicago, you've got the Chicago Teachers Union, where Brandon Johnson used to be an employee, and I mean used to be like several months ago was an employee. The mayor now has the responsibility to negotiate or oversee or supervise the negotiation of a new contract with CTU, his former employer. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, these people should not be involved in that part of the process at all. I mean, in terms of spending money to elect a mayor who's going to basically have some say, a lot of say for that matter, on their contract. But that's what happens in Chicago. It happens with all the unions, and that's why Chicago is crooked. I said it. Yeah. I mean, to me, that opens the door for all kinds of corruption.
Well, maybe they should, and I think it's probably going to be challenged, but if it gets passed, this law that is being proposed for red light camera companies and speed camera companies, that they cannot make contributions to political people and even their relatives or people who are associated with them. They can't make. I'm sure it's going to get challenged, right? I think it could put, red light companies out of business because they can no longer, hand out the cookie jar. Nikki Zolar and Xerox, who has a contract in the city, and that sort of thing. But maybe we need to look at that. Maybe we do need to look at that universally throughout.
It's a little late now.
Illinois. I don't think
late
it's
now because the mayor is basically just left, just I guess resigned from the CTU. I mean, the CTU gave him money in the CTU already. I mean, they got their 12-week parental leave situation without even negotiation, with no negotiation. That hey, no problem.
Well, that's been on the table for a long time.
Of course it is, but the long time ended as soon as Brandon was elected.
Yeah,
because he has a sympathetic ear to the Chicago Teachers Union, and the Chicago Teachers Union is sitting there saying, "Hey, we gave you so many millions of dollars to run, and our people went out and worked for you to get you elected. This is one of the things we want." The cops didn't get it. The cops didn't get parental leave because there isn't that relationship. That's what I believe. That's my theory on it. But I mean, that's Chicago. That's Chicago. I mean, you got other unions that give big money to campaigns, Local 150, operating engineers, because they do a lot of work. I mean, they do a lot of work on rebuilding the sewer system and water system. Those are both basically all Local 150 guys that work on the earth movers and such, that clean streets and whatever. And they give big money. I don't know what they get out of it, but they give big money. And
what they get out of it is that they have this exclusive club that they can lock Black people out of on a large part. All right, so. Absolutely.
I agree with you 100%, man. It's just that the politicians that we elect allow that to happen. They don't.
Well,
they never,
and we allow them. We allow
pull
them
the trigger on.
We
Local
allow
150.
them to allow it to happen.
We allow them. To allow it to happen
because we won't do what we.
Well, what are we supposed to do?
We're supposed to organize that we can be just as much of a threat as a union.
Well, we have,
and because there's more of us than there are of any one of these unions.
Yeah,
there are more of us than there are of any one of these unions. More than the Chicago Teachers Union, which what are there 30,000 members in the Chicago's Teachers Union. So any one of these individual unions, there are more of us in, and we won't do. The one simple thing is to organize ourselves together so that we can be that threat and we can hold them to account. And when they don't deliver, we can change. It's really that simple.
Well, it is simple, but it's very difficult to put it all together. What else is going on?
This, did you see the story about this architect in New York that they arrested the other day? That is for, allegedly being, this choir boy architect that they're saying that he has murdered up to
that serial killer guy.
Serial killer.
Yeah, man. That's
going
terrible.
back to now, they're saying today that he could be tied to even more than the 10 people.
That's just sick stuff, man. I've been, just hearing the story peripherally. I haven't really read in on it. But I guess it's all over the news. A lot of the cable news people are really leaning on that story. That seems to be something that they're most interested in. What do you think about the president's new plan to, student debt relief?
I love it.
You love it.
I love it. I think the idea that, the Supreme Court has officially become the third legislative body, that they decide on what becomes policy and what's not policy, that this idea of helping students out of this debt when we're the richest nation in the world and the only developed nation that does not provide for education and health care for its people, I think, and then for them not to want to do away with this mounting stranglehold of debt that some people end up, mortgaging their life away. They have to pay for it. I think it was, if they can do it, I think it would be great.
Yeah.
We should have gotten rid of the $2 trillion in student loan debt the same way that we gave rich people who didn't need it $2 trillion in tax gifts.
Let me tell you a story. I went to college between 1969 and 1973. In 1970, I made, this is according to the Social Security Administration, I made $1,100. I worked as a bus.
Where? What year?
69 to 1970, my taxes. I made $1,100 and change. I worked as a bus boy and on a parking lot during the summer, a bus boy after classes in college.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the University of Missouri, which is the largest university in that state. It's like Illinois. The tuition at the University of Missouri for 16 hours, that's a full load, full class load, was $273. In other words, I made more than twice the amount it took for me to pay my tuition. Now, room and board was something else. My dad would help. I got a loan, Stafford loan, they called it back in those days. Not a lot, maybe a couple. I think I left college maybe owed $1,000, right? But $273 for a full load at a major university. That's free college, man.
Thomas Jefferson, it's on his headstone. He ran on it.
Yeah, look. When Bernie Sanders says college should be free, it was free. For me, yeah, I had to put some skin in the game, the $273.
Yeah, but the $273 back then went, and the $1,100 that you made went much further.
Well, whatever.
Yes.
I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, how far.
I'm just saying how bad it is now.
I'm
I'm comparing it.
But I'm saying you can't take a summer job and pay your tuition at the University of Illinois.
No,
Heck
you
no.
can't pay it in a year almost.
No. So what I'm saying is people were all outraged when Bernie Sanders said free college. Why not? We did it before. How come you can't do it again?
Absolutely.
And there's fewer, and that was for baby boomers, which was the largest number of people this country has seen in ever, right? The baby boom generation. Now we have people don't have babies like they used to. We have fewer young people. So what happened? And I know you're gonna jump me. You're gonna jump me. I know, because it happened during the 1980s that they started this college business where they let these banks. Reagan did it. Let these banks suddenly start providing the money for colleges, and the university said, "Oh, you mean we can get more money for this?" As long as the banks were willing to finance it, the tuition started to go up to where public education is not happening anymore. I mean, I can't imagine spending, what is it, $20,000-$25,000 to go to U of I. I mean, that's a good school. I get it. Like Mizzou is a good school. If you want to go to Missouri, you're going to have to pay $20,000 if you live in the state of Missouri. But again, I made enough money working a summer job to pay my tuition for a full year at a major university.
this is scandalous. What's going on?
It is
and
absolutely scandalous.
and-
But and I'm not even going to jump on the other because I could, but I'm not going there because I don't want to take the attention off of what's even more important is that education. You're going to prohibit people from being educated when we know the numbers are in that people who get an education are less likely to get in trouble, more productive, and contribute to the tax base.
Without a doubt.
Right?
Without a doubt.
The GI Bill, which was an exhaustive study on it, for every dollar that the country spent on the GI Bill, we got $7 back. There's a 20-year study on this.
I can believe that.
All right. So why everybody is up in arms about this, I can only attribute it to one thing. It is to pad the pockets of the super rich. Okay?
Well, it has.
The idea of straddling people with this kind of debt to become productive and educated in the richest nation in the world.
But see, the thing, what I don't like about the president's approach is that he wants to pay the loans. In other words, he wants to give the bankers the money. I'm saying that if you take $39 billion, I think, which is the number that's being used as the first installment of this, pay some tuition. Pay the tuition of kids today. Pay them. I mean, make sure that that's the fairest way to do it, because the person that didn't go to college is going to say, well, why should I pay for the loan he took out? Well, there's reasons for that. I get that. But to diffuse that controversy, you help families today deal with the problem.
But you also help those families that cannot afford to take care of their families because they have this mounted debt.
Yeah, well, I know, but
they have this mounted. It's a mortgage.
They took the debt out. I mean, I don't want to get into defending anything about the system, but the fact of the matter is, it's divisive in as much as
I don't know why.
Well,
I don't know why when we give because it's a certain group of people. But look, we have people who are getting billions of dollars every year, and none of us are saying anything about it except for a few of us.
The one I say a lot about it, about
billions of dollars in subsidies every year. Yeah. Billions.
Yeah, we'll spend
billions.
We'll spend
that go up into the trillions of dollars, and we don't say anything about it. So, but to contribute, I think the total amount is somewhere around $2 trillion of student loan debt. Around $2 trillion. Pay the debt off. Pay it off.
Where are you going to get the money to pay all that debt?
The same place that they got the $2 trillion to give to the people that they increased and bloated the deficit with, that they gave $2 trillion to people who didn't need it.
Yeah, well,
so
I don't want to go full circle, but you know they're spending a lot of money these days.
Look,
boom, boom, bang, bang.
Not more than the $2 trillion that they gave to rich people who didn't need it. How about that? Let's roll the $2 trillion back and let's give it to the students and help the students to unsaddle them with the debt.
I'm looking around for money, and I see some money, and I see money over here, money over there that certainly could be redirected. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, I think clearly something's got to be done about it, because you got people out there who are 35, 40 years old, who graduated from college 15, 20 years ago, who are still living paycheck to paycheck because they've got to come up with that $600, $700, $800 a month to pay for that loan that they used to go to the university, to go to Northwestern, or to go to some other university that charges these outrageous amounts of money. It's something that America's done before, and I hope people understand that we as a country have done this before. We've done it before. It's nothing new to have college tuition, particularly at public colleges and universities. We've done it before. We can do it again.
Absolutely. Thomas Jefferson ran on it. It's on his headstone.
Well, I wasn't there. I didn't.
It's
I
on
didn't-
his. It's
I
on
didn't
his
vote for
headstone.
Tommy.
It's on his
Tommy
headstone.
had his
That was
his issues
his-
too, but
but look,
if it's
I'm-
on his headstone, I'm
it's
down
on
with
his
it.
head.
I mean,
It's on his headstone. We're
he
just
was
talking about
prescient.
education.
He
We're
was
talking about
prescient.
education. So
Definitely.
education and healthcare in the richest nation in the world, when every other developed nation provides education and healthcare for their people.
I'm down.
All
I'm
right.
down, man. See that's where to be honest with you, man, I can go into a group of people who would be considered conservatives, and I'll say that to them. I think healthcare should be. I think universal healthcare. Yeah, why not? We can do that. Why shouldn't we be able to do it? Yeah, if you want to go get the specialist at the Mayo Clinic or whatever to give you this experimental treatment and you're very wealthy, go for it.
Well,
People go to private
if you
schools.
have free healthcare, you're not going to have to worry about going.
But a lot of
going
people will. I mean,
but you're not going to have to worry about
You have
that.
free public education now. You have free public education now. But if I had the resources I have available to me now, no way in HE double hockey sticks would I send my kid to a neighborhood school in Chicago. I'd have to check it out very closely. The majority of neighborhood schools in Chicago, I wouldn't send my kid to it. You don't get a mulligan on third grade. You know what I mean? You got to have third grade's got to work. You can't send your kid to some failing elementary school and
Got to properly resource them. Same way.
absolutely, but
gotta
they
properly
haven't.
resource
But
exactly.
your political wherewithal, your Democrat Party here in Chicago does not foster good schools. Okay, so there's no way in the world I'm going to sit there and pray for the CTU and the city council and the board of education to get its act together while my kid has to go to third grade. You don't get a mulligan on third grade. You get one pass, and that's it. And I wouldn't take the chance. If I got the resources, I'm not taking the chance. And a lot of people believe that. And that's why they're leaving the city of Chicago, because these people who are in charge at City Hall, at the Board of Education, at the state legislature, your Democrat Party, they aren't getting it done.
Well, all I can say is that we as citizens are failing ourselves and failing our children because we will not hold them to account. We will not hold them to account. All we do is call names of the Democrats. If we don't like Democrats, we keep calling them names.
No, I'm just calling them what it is.
Both of them.
If they were
Republicans
if they were
and
Republicans,
Democrats.
I'd say the same thing.
Republicans,
But there ain't no Republicans around
and
here.
Republicans and Democrats. Republicans and Democrats
In Chicago?
have failed
Really? In
Illinois.
Chicago?
In Illinois.
In Chicago?
They've failed.
Uh-huh.
They have failed. They have failed.
Okay.
Okay. And we are failing because why won't we organize? Why won't we organize when we have the wherewithal to do it? Just answer that question to me.
Why won't
Why
we
will
organize?
we not organize? With all we need is 150,000 to have a serious voice.
Y'all got a voice, man. 85% of you vote for the Democrats, man. 85, 90%.
See, you're getting distracted with labels.
I'm not being distracted.
You're getting distracted with
political
labels.
unity
in
in Chicago.
No,
This
it's
is one
not.
of the most unified,
No, it's not.
politically unified cities you'll find anywhere in the country.
It's the
Man, you
politically
get
steered.
90%
It is
of the
the
people
politically steered.
vote for the Democrats, man. They're all Democrats.
Well, we don't have
They
any
love 'em.
alternative. We don't have any alternative.
Well, you
but
know,
listen,
maybe
what
that's
I would
what you
say,
should
what I
come up
should
with.
say is,
Y'all
well,
unify.
you organize to bring in different people and to hold people. Do you not believe that if we were to say we are targeting over the next 3 cycles of election, this person, Emma Mitz, Derek Curtis, what's he? Greg Mitchell,
Derek, Greg,
Michelle Harris.
Emma.
Hold on.
I ain't saying any of that.
Michelle Harris. I said it. Mark
Okay.
Wallace said
Okay,
it.
Mark Wallace said that.
I don't back down on
Yeah, but
anything that I say.
I don't know
I
enough
said
about any of
I
those
do.
people individually.
I do.
To
They're
say
weak.
that they're
They're
as you say,
absolutely
weak.
weak and incompetent.
okay.
All
They're
right.
incompetent. I
Okay.
mean, I
So-
don't know enough.
Then we should target those persons who work in concert, antithetical to the advancement of Black people that they are supposed to be serving. My point is, if we were to organize and if we were to make an example of 2 or 3 or 4, if we were to make an example of them, don't you think that that would get the attention of the rest of those that we didn't hit in that cycle? That, wait a minute, these people are organizing differently now. They're organizing themselves rather than us telling them who to support or who's going to be. We become the selectors and the electors. Don't you think that that would get the attention of
Ideally
the-
speaking,
of
yes.
Democrats, Republican,
Yeah,
the governor?
absolutely.
Don't you think that?
That
Okay.
would definitely get the attention, but what I'm saying, there's no
And the respect.
You got to understand there's going to be pushback.
Who
And
cares?
the pushback is going to come from the party structure.
Who cares?
The fact that they, for
We
instance,
weaken the party
well,
structure.
No. For instance, you got to run in their primary. You
So?
can't run. No, why? So
So
man,
what?
you know how much money it costs to run as an independent, as opposed to running as a party person. The party invites you in. Yeah, you can run on the party ticket, and they
invite you
and they'll
in,
have you and all this,
But you got to
but
pay
you-
$40,000 to get in.
But what I'm saying,
You got to pay $40,000 to
gotta
get
pay-
in.
You got
I'm
to come up
saying to
with
you
money.
is
The party is crooked. The party is setting up things. The party has this all set up.
But you're missing
so
the
that
point,
I'm
Charles.
not missing your point. I'm saying that the thing is rigged. The Democrat Party in Chicago and Cook County.
It can't be
is
rigged if we put
rigged.
it can't be
It's
rigged.
rigged.
It cannot be rigged if we put our own numbers up.
You got to have money, man. You got to have money. You got to have insight. You
All
got
right.
to have all.
Let's go back to my
the
10 by
tricks.
10 to win.
And I've gone back to it 1,000 times, and it's 10 by 10 by
So
10
if we
to
can
win.
if we can
and we
develop
lose.
if we can do no way.
Well,
There's no way.
But well, why
We haven't done it.
Why does it work? Why does it work?
Because we haven't done it.
Mark, you've been working on it for 10 years.
Yeah, but we haven't done it.
huh?
We have not done
Why
it.
haven't you done it?
Because we
Why-
haven't been able to get the kind of cooperation that we
What
need
kind of cooperation you need?
to get. We need to get those people in.
I'll
We
tell
need to
you
get
what
the
you
numbers
need.
of people
I'll tell you
in.
What you need? You need about $250,000. That's what you need, because they got money and they'll shut you down if you don't have money, because that's
Wait,
what they do.
So if I
They
had
raise
250,000
money,
people,
Well, I
and-
put
and
that,
the 250,000
wait,
wait. Let's say if we had 250,000 people and each person put in $1, how much is that?
I get it, but your thing
Okay.
is, you've got to have a way to raise the money. You got to be able to go on the radio or TV or however you do it to tell everybody to send you $1. All the while, they're going to be pushing back. They're going to be attacking you. They have connections
care.
in the media. They're going to be
I
putting
don't
out
care.
pamphlets. They're going to be calling you all kinds of names under the sun. They're going to be going after man.
Let me tell you
this
something,
is
Charles.
rigged,
Let me tell
man.
you something. I would take on every slur, every name they would call if the people would just organize and amass themselves into a power base. I
We
would
would
welcome to be all those names that they want to throw. I don't care
Okay, but
about
we
that.
were just talking about
I don't care
it.
about that. The
We were
Bible
just
tells
talking
me
about it,
that
man.
there are no
Okay,
weapon formed will
somebody gonna
prosper.
step to somebody. The CTU is going to step to you and say, "Hey,
They're going to
you
step
know,
to me.
Can you let's do it?" Yeah, they'll step to you and say, "Hey,
Say what?
what are you going to do? What are you going to do for us?" Then other pressure groups, other unions
No,
are going to
no, no.
step to you. They're going to say, "Hey, what about us?
What I'm
about
going
us?"
to do is
Man,
what I'm going to do is
so
organize
locked
the
down by
people,
party, it's
organize
very
the people,
difficult.
and we are going to dictate
Man, if
to
you-
the
brother,
powers at be
brother,
what is best for the
if
people.
you can, I'm
This is
down.
not a.
I'm
yeah.
with you all the way, my man. I'm just being realistic about it. That this place is crooked,
Oh,
and it has been, it is, and they're going to get people elected who they want elected.
why do you think? Why
they
do you
get their money from the traffic?
Why do you
people,
think that I
and they're
came?
gonna-
Why do you think
the
that I
traffic light
that we
people?
came up with the idea of 10 by 10 to win? Because the city is straight.
Absolutely.
Because they're straight.
Do you think that
I'm very well aware.
I mean, do you think that they're gonna I know that one of your passions, and I support you in it, is to get these this traffic scam ended, and you've done yeoman's work, my brother. You have.
Thank you.
You have in raising public awareness about what's going on out there. But I haven't seen one scintilla of effort on the part of this new administration to take down this nonsense. They are causing people to lose their jobs. They are
Bankruptcy.
disrupting families.
Yeah.
They are people can't work because their cars have been impounded and such, and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
What's up with my man? What's up with your boy? What's he going to do?
Well,
He's
I
looking
reached
at
out-
$180 million a year that the city's collecting on these cameras, and he's got to use that in order to continue whatever program he has. Is he going to take $180 million hit
No, that's
at this point?
That's an excuse. That's an excuse that the people who are within the Chicago Department of Transportation and all those other people are in his ear, probably selling that nonsense to him. I reached out to him last week because I gave him what I thought would be a reasonable amount of time to get yourself settled in
See,
to
with the clock's ticking.
so
man.
absolutely
I
and
like
so
that in you.
so I reached out last week and they text back and said, I'm going to have them to reach out to you and schedule a meeting. Because while I support the mayor, I've also said that I'm going to hold to account to deliver. Now, you said you're going to do certain things. I'm going to hold them to account to deliver. I want to be a part of a group of people to hold the mayor to account to deliver policies that are fair and equitable and that work to improve our city. Red light cameras and speed cameras have made some people very, very rich on the backs of all. I had a man who is from Oak Park, came into the city to go to his dentist, got 3 $35 tickets that day.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to pay $110, $115 as a toll.
red light or
speed cameras.
6 miles an hour over.
Right. Okay. And he says that on 2 of them, they were in school safety zones. And I said to him, go back and review the videos and let me know if there's any children in the video, because there has to be children in the video.
Oh, really?
For the school safety zone, not the park safety zone, but because if you go 6 to 10 miles over the speed limit in a school safety zone while school is in, or during that period, there has to be a child present, meaning they have to be in the video. Otherwise, the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. Right now, I know it's confusing.
I thought it was time of day.
Well, it goes from 6 in the morning until 9 at night for school safety zones. In some areas, it's a little bit, they shift it out a half hour or so. But that, which I don't even understand that either, because if you go around the country or even in some of the suburbs, their school safety zone times are from the time before till just after the time that school actually starts, right? Because in between that, you're supposed to be in school. Then it starts again when just before school is leaving to a certain period of time after, right? Those are the safety time zones. Like in some of the suburbs, they have crossing guards and they have traffic patrol people, that monitors this thing. So this man said, I said, were they park safety zone or school safety zone? He says 2 of them were school safety zones. I said, go back and view them and then send them to me, because if they were school safety zone tickets, they were never supposed to be issued, because the only time that they're supposed to be issued if a child is present. So that only time that so if a child is not present, the speed limit is 30 miles an hour if a child is not present in the school safety zone. So in our appeal, when we were working with Alderman Beavers trying to reverse this 6 mile an hour nonsense back to 10, we made that a part of the record, is that the school safety zone, $35 tickets, 6 to 10 miles are only supposed to be issued when a child is present. And they said, yeah, we don't issue tickets when there's no child present.
Know, man, there's a computer issuing those tickets.
Listen, well, if that's the case, we now have a basis of another class action lawsuit, because you're issuing tickets. And I'm sure you didn't just issue 1 or 2.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, people pay them.
All right.
They pay them. And then if you don't, they throw if it sticks. They don't care.
Yeah. So, but again, this is another form of an unnecessary tax, is what this is.
Absolutely.
Right. It's just like city stickers on your car. That's just a tax. It serves no purpose other than to raise money. Period. There are many communities around the country that have done away with city stickers.
Yeah, not Chicago.
All right. In Chicago, you got to pay, what is it, $199 or something for your window city sticker. And then if you don't have it on the day of, you can get a ticket for $200 a day, which now there's a class action lawsuit on that, because the city was overcharging people on that. So the city is on the hook, you and I, for potentially hundreds of millions of dollars, because that class action lawsuit just got certified. So, so Brandon, please hold to what you said and do what you said you're going to do, and don't allow for those handkerchief heads around there, Chicago Department of Transportation, to convince you to keep a system in place that we are not benefiting from.
Well, I try not to drive so much in the city. So,
but that's ridiculous. You should be able to get in your car and drive. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you been arrested on drunk driving?
Never.
How many speeding tickets have you gotten from a police officer? Police officer in the city of Chicago?
Like one in the last 25 years.
You got a speeding ticket?
I got a speeding ticket coming over the bridge from the casino. I had been at the casino in Gary, came over the Skyway, and before I got to the toll booth, cops stopped me and said, you were going faster than you should have been going. That was 25 years ago, man.
25 years ago. Were you going, what, 6 miles over the speed limit?
I don't know. I think it was more probably driving while black more than speeding.
Okay. So you got a ticket from CPD?
Yeah.
So you were out near the little Hegwish area or whatever that is?
I was coming over the bridge before I hit the toll booth. Come over, you've been to the casino, you go over the Skyway, you come back, before you hit the toll booth, he pulled me over and said, hey, you were going too fast.
Chicago?
Yeah, Chicago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not familiar with.
He was clearly laying for people.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I haven't, because I usually just get in my car and I go right to the expressway and I'm gone.
Well, this man who called me, I don't want to use his name, but I think he would be okay, but I'm not going to use it. But he's from Oak Park. And he says, listen, I'm economically pretty sound. He says, but this is
Yeah.
a major ripoff here.
And the thing is, the cameras are in neighborhoods where they're in poor neighborhoods. I mean, I know that there's a Francis X. Ward School, right, which is on Des Plaines Avenue downtown, and right across the street from it is a park, right? There's a school for rich kids. I mean, they pay like 25, 30 grand a year to go to school there. And then across the street, there's a park.
Is it
No cameras.
right?
No cameras.
Right.
And we're only one block from the Kennedy Expressway. So cars are flying to get to the expressway. No cameras.
Bet you there would never be one there.
And
either.
never be one there.
Right.
But that's the church. That's Daly's church. That's the old Daly Burke church. It's the Irish cathedral, if you will. But no cameras. Man, this town makes you sick sometimes.
Yeah.
With how obviously openly corrupt it is.
Yeah. I mean, but again, they do it. One of my committee members says they do it with the lights on. They do it with the lights on, with LEDs.
Yeah. Well, would you watch? They ain't gonna do it with lights on with Brandon.
So, of course.
They're not gonna. They're
Yeah,
gonna
of
turn
course.
the lights on him, and they're gonna be watching.
Oh, of course. His skin is too dark. His skin is too dark. But but the camera situation, right? Even though it is corrupt, but what it does is that is typical across the board with so many things. But this is that one thing that is out there, and that it's unbelievable. And there are some aldermen who would tell you offline, yeah, I know that is such and such and such and such, but then we'll go and vote for it.
Well, they're getting the money, man.
They will go and vote for it.
They're very circuitous ways that they have here in Chicago for your money. Where you get he might not getting his money from a red light camera company, but he might be getting his money from someplace else. That it's a very Byzantine. Is that the word? Byzantine relationships and winding how people do it. And if you have any source, if your income, whatever your source of income is, if they can find a way to make you do what they want you to do, they'll do it.
Yeah. I know police officers that I've talked to, and I've talked to many that don't agree with the system, because there used to be with bus drivers would get a 3-day suspension if they got a red light camera ticket. That's $700 on average.
What, the 3-day suspension?
Yes.
They'd have to pay it? A bus driver?
No, they'd lose the money. They don't.
Well, they'd have to pay it. Yeah.
They'd have to pay the ticket, but they lose 3 days of work.
Yeah.
Right. So they were able to reverse that. I mean, there was a big fight about that. They were able to get that somehow negotiated out, that you got it. But then you now have private companies that are firing people, people losing their livelihood because they got a $100 ticket.
Right.
They're losing $60,000, $70,000 a year. And it's on their record that you've been terminated.
I know people like that who've had that happen.
That's unconscionable to me.
They
That's
don't care.
unconscionable.
Politicians don't care, man. They need that $180 million or whatever it is they collect every year to on these tickets.
And
these
you got some
machines.
people sitting in the back of a room who sends this stuff over and tell you, this was a violation. And if you were to contest it, you're going to lose at the administrative hearing level. And then you want to go and have an administrative review, you got to pay $401.50 to appeal it.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. That's what they do. They're killing the golden goose, man. They're killing the city. And so, how's the crime situation coming along, man? Is it if they put a dent in it, or I don't really know what's going on, because you hear a lot of reporting on the crime, but it's very focused on one area.
Mhm.
Like they only tell you what happened on the north side or downtown. They don't really tell you what's happening on the west side or the south side, where people are most affected by the crime. So I'm kind of like watching. I look at the statistics when they do the compounded statistics. You get a sense then, but in terms of what's going on this summer, it's hard to tell, because they don't tell you when somebody gets shot at 79th and Halstead.
Or 79th and Cottage Grove.
Yeah, they don't tell you that. I mean, that's not big news.
Although we have, thank God we have not had any shootings or fatalities any more at 79th and Cottage Grove, this summer, at all this summer. And but this year we've had 7.
So they are patrolling it?
No, not the way that I think it needs to be patrolled, because they decide to selectively patrol areas. Like, for instance, there was some shootings and I think a couple of deaths over the last couple of years on 75th Street between Prairie and King Drive. That's a business district where there's some
there's
predominantly
there.
black business. That's where on 79th and Cottage Grove, there have been 7 this year. 22 shootings, 79th and Cottage Grove. I went to the 6th district and say, look, they station a police officer on the corner of 79th and Prairie, and they have this bright light there. But on 79th and Cottage Grove, in the same district, we can't get some special attention.
Well, their numbers are down. They don't have the numbers. The cops.
No, they are prioritizing where they do that. Why would you put a police officer special attention on 75th Street, where there are fewer homicides than on 79th and Cottage Road?
Well, I can understand why. Because you've got businesses on 75th Street that are, they probably have a little more clout, because they probably can hire, better lawyers, better people to make their case at City Hall. They might have better relationships with the alderman. It's a different alderman, right? That's 75th and 75th is 6th Ward, I believe.
Yeah, 79th Street is also 6th Ward, and across Cottage Grove is the 8th Ward. Michelle Harris and now Will Hall, who is the 6th Ward alderman now, they share that, and so. Hall's new. We'll see what happens, man. If he can, but does he have the clout? I mean, I think it's also difficult because the police department is so unsettled. The chain of command is still in flux. So if we can get through this summer, perhaps there are better things to come once things are settled. Yeah, I kind of get some terrible things have happened just in the last couple of days. Some terrible things have happened. But I don't think the numbers are as bad as some had predicted or thought that would be. One is, in my judgment, is too many. But I don't think the numbers are as bad as they are. But I don't take light that because one parent losing a child is just, they are traumatized and aggrieved over that situation. So, well, they got to do something about stick-up crews. They got to do something about guns that are rolling around the city, and they're pointing guns in people's faces, taking their wallets and their phones. Yeah, and I don't know where in the next year you're going to take their guns back, and I don't really know how a lot of these people, young black men, can be rehabilitated
to the extent that they don't go out and believe that this is a way to get money. And it's not, and I remember something you said last week. It's not that many of them. It's not that many of them
No.
that are going to those ends to do that. But at the same time, those that are doing it are going to have to be stopped. They are going to have to be preempted.
Well, we gotta
some kind of way.
preempt this over proliferation of availability
Yeah,
and
but you ain't
easy
gonna
availability
do that in the
of
next few
guns.
weeks. This is not going to happen.
Well, you're not
It's not
going
gonna
you're not
happen.
going to
But the
preempt
guys
it,
that are going to use
then
the
you're not going
guns,
to preempt
well,
them in the next few
why
weeks.
not? Well, I mean, you're going to let them just
You're not.
continue.
You're not going to preempt them in
guns
the
in
next
people's
week.
faces,
Well,
or are you going to start
Well, but-
preemptively stopping them
How
and
about
saying, "Hey,
plug-
where
how-
are you going?"
how about plug where they're getting these guns so easily from, so that it's not so
Go for
easily
it.
available
If you
to
can do
them
that, man,
to go and do
take
those
it to the
things,
Supreme
okay?
Court. But in the meantime, something's got to be done to stop them from stealing a car and driving it around, seeing somebody on the street after dark who's alone, who looks vulnerable, and taking them off. I mean, and robbing them. Something's got to happen. And the cops are not doing anything preemptively to stop these guys. And it's not a lot. I agree with you. It's not a lot of them. The vast majority of young men are not stick-up artists. But the ones who are, they're out of control. They're absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
How we doing, Earl?
All right. Lastly, 5 more Cook County workers losing their jobs for PPP scams. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
Man, it was free money.
This is the most ridiculous. It ain't free because now they're losing their pensions.
A lot of them, but a lot
Okay.
got away.
They're losing their
A
pensions.
lot of people got away.
Well,
Man, I wish I had set up some kind of company, and said I was going to, hired you and I was paying you 85.
no, don't put my name.
Well, that's what's happening. They're putting people down that didn't get the money.
No,
That's how they got caught.
No, they made up
That's
up
what I'm
people.
saying.
They
I
just
mean, hey,
made up.
I know you're
people.
not going to settle
Crazy.
for some chump
Please.
change, so
I ain't gonna settle for no stolen money. Okay,
So you might not know that I put you down.
Well, good, because they come to me. I don't know nothing about that. No, I'm all right. Charles did that. Go lock him up.
Lock him up.
Lock him up. But I feel bad because this one person, we gotta wrap it up, was making $120,000 a year. She had 2 years left to go before she retired, and took a $25,000 PPP loan fraudulently, and did it on county time, on county computer. How dumb. How dumb. You deserve to.
I bet you there's, for every 5 they caught, there's 50 they didn't catch.
Yeah, well, don't worry. And the little bit of money that they got away with is pittance compared to what the corporate thieves are getting away with all the time. So, not condoning it, but I think it's stupid because, they're now losing their pension, their retirement, and all that sort of. So their lives are completely just turned around. All right, well, listen, that's going to do it for us for this week, for this Monday night's edition of the People Show here on July the 17th. July the 17th.
My name is Charles Thomas.
I'm Mark Wallace.
And we'll see you next week, 7 p.m. right here on Intellectual Radio.